30 years ago, I began making this series of prison documentaries. I wanted to examine the punishment of crime in Australia. In a welcome spirit of openness, I was granted unprecedented access to prisons across Australia, and a great many inmates were spoken to. Disturbingly, large numbers were former inmates of youth detention centres that did not offer rehabilitation programs. And of course, without attention to their offending behaviour, many young inmates became trapped in a cycle of crime and regrettably ended up here. After the broadcast of the series, I was offered a glimmer of hope at a live television follow-up when prison executives and politicians agreed that rehabilitation programs for young offenders were urgently needed. Clearly, this commitment did not stand the test of time when the appalling brutality of the Dondale Youth Detention Centre was exposed. And also this year, the discovery of widespread use of solitary confinement for juvenile inmates, sometimes up to a 45-day stretch. Depressingly, we seem to be heading back to the bad old days. Then out of the blue, good news, when I receive a call from an old friend I'd lost touch with, Margaret Bell. She tells me about a program she's running that's achieving real success with alienated and at-risk young people. And by the way, Margaret tells me, the program is totally non-violent. I had to find out more. Margaret Bell's program is called Learning Ground, and it's tucked away in Western Sydney. Besides locals and some local schools, few people know it exists. And yet, it's been transforming young lives for a decade. Jared, tell me, where would you be today if you had not gone to Learning Ground?
Cobbin.
Pardon?
Jail. Juvenile.
Why is that?
Because it's, I've made some stupid decisions, but Learning Ground, it was a place, it's more than a place for me. People just think it's a place where we go for behaviour change. It's a way of life for me now.
If you didn't go to Learning Ground, where would you be now?
Probably locked up or dead. That's being honest.
Maybe jail, maybe dead. Can't really tell.
I really don't know, David? I don't know where I'd be. I'd probably be sitting at the pub drinking me dole check away, like every other people around here.
Would you go back stealing cars?
No.
At Learning Ground, all of our practices are positive. We don't indulge at all in violence. There's no punishment and no punitive action. Everybody likes to be recognised. Everybody likes to be thanked. We don't need to rub their noses in what they've done wrong. Instead, we achieve through recognition of right doing.
So Muriel, where do you think you'd be if you hadn't gone to Margaret Bell and Learning Ground?
I'd be in jail. I really would be. I'd be in jail.
Why is that?
I was too naughty. I was violent. I just thought fighting was a good thing.
Fighting?
Yeah. There was heaps of times when I got kicked out of school just from fighting, or suspended, or ending up in the police station. But, like I seen the battle after that when I finally got the help I needed, but if I didn't, then that's where I would be.
It's nice to see you. Good morning.
The aims, as stated by Learning Ground, are about establishing a safe haven, it's about behavioural change, it's about re-engaging young people with school and work, it's about promoting intercultural understanding. This is a significant list of items, and they're not easily come by in the school system, let alone in a small agency.
Good morning, Margaret. Good morning, Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Morning.
The place from where Learning Ground exists, where it actually operates, is a unique place in the context of not just New South Wales, but Australia as a whole. But at the same time, it's a place that's actually repeated all over the world. It's a place where multiple risks coalesce. They come together to create an environment in which people are being affected by poverty, by health, by access to services, by crime, by drugs, but they're also being affected by their diversity and the attempts that they're making to try and function as one, yet at the same time be many, many different peoples.
And she kept looking down the road, so...
The problems that you had at school, did that reach a point that was very negative for you before you...
Until Learning Ground?
Yeah.
It was reaching that point, you know. You can't go to school when, like, you feel like you're not accepted because you have a reputation with teachers and stuff. And
what sort of reputation did you have?
Like a bad reputation. Like some teachers probably didn't even want me in their class, but, you know, because it's their job, they have to. So, yeah.
There's a great deal of work going on in Australia now, which is excellent for very young people, especially 0 to 5. But we're looking particularly at quite a forgotten group. So, and we believe and see clearly that it's not too late. Young, disaffected 12 to 16-year-olds can be turned around, and that's our aim.
I would snap at everything. Someone could say that they would hate my shoes, and I would want to just hit them. They made me so angry. And someone could look at me the wrong way and I'd yell at them. My mum thinks it's because of the people I used to hang around.
So who would you hang around with? What sort of people?
Just people that always wanted to fight other people.
Did you go around in, female gangs and things like that? Was it just those friends were aggressive towards the group or towards other people?
Towards other people.
And you were part of that? How often would you attack other people?
Twice every day.
Twice every day? And how were things at school?
Very bad.
In what way?
Getting suspended, detentions, stuff like that. Fighting.
For fighting?
Fighting, bad language, disobedience, stuff like that.
I just was angry at everyone. I took my anger out on everyone around me because I was going through some issues, trying to overcome something major that happened in my childhood, which was a sexual assault. But I'm over that now. Well, not over it, but I've overcome that and moving on with my life now.
I got taken away from my dad and it was hard for me to focus on school. So my nan thought that maybe it was a good idea for me to come to Learning Ground just to get away from school for a day or something, and then, and for them to help me with my schoolwork and stuff like that. Right. And talk to someone about it because I wouldn't talk to her about it and she just wanted me to talk to someone.
So about what specifically?
Being taken away from my dad and, how I feel about everything.
We talked about how our memories are formed. And you gave some lovely ideas of what becomes a tradition in your family when you think...
Was it a family thing that affected you?
Yeah.
Did you do what they call, did you just wander around at school? Is that what they call corridor surfing?
Yeah.
Yeah. How important is finding a way to be able to respond to a student that becomes disengaged
It's critical, because if we don't find a solution, then the greater time frame between the disengagement and the re-engagement in learning, the greater possibility of that the student may never re-engage in education. And Learning Ground provides us that opportunity for some of our students.
Young participants spend 1 day a week at Learning Ground with their mentors, and then 4 days at their local school.
Thank you very much.
One of the things that students who go to Learning Ground learn is the ability to be able to gain a sense of belonging and a sense of warmth and a sense that people care about them. And that starts off as a simple greeting that occurs at Learning Ground with Margaret Bell.
Thank you. You showed great respect. I appreciate that. Now, I would like to greet you all with a big welcome and with great respect and with great affection. Thank you, Jake. Now, could you offer the same greeting to each other, please?
And that from the opening is a ticket to say the door's open here, and we don't have an opinion about you. We've met you and we've greeted you warmly and openly, and you're part of the community. And I think that's valuable, that sense of belonging.
That is how we want to spend the rest of the day.
How did Learning Ground begin?
It began out of long, unhurried conversations.
Isn't that wonderful? He's a champion guy.
One of the people that I had the good fortune to meet very early in the conversation was Winsome Matthews.
Yeah, we should ask him about the new house.
She brought to our conversation a rich and a wonderful understanding of traditional and contemporary Aboriginal thought.
Now, you right getting up here?
But you also brought a background of your own talent. Tell us about that.
I think that's what Winsome put up with, because she realised that I was bringing a background of an international kind. I'd worked in communities in Africa and India and South America, in Southeast Asia, as well as in Australia. And I'd worked as an educator, working with young people and with adults.
It was very exciting because it was outside the box. It was providing a vital service to the young people of the community, and that's against having a really acute understanding of all the other perils that occur in a place like Mt Druitt.
So we started to ask ourselves, what is it that these young people need to be sure of most? Because one of the things that they were very unsure of was their place in society.
Yeah, a lot of mates still do, but some of them are not really my mates anymore.
Why is that?
Oh, most of them are locked up.
And so what were they being locked up for?
Robbery, drug dealing, assault.
How close did you come to joining them? I mean, why did you go in a different direction? It'd be much easier to go with them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have, but I saw, didn't want to disappoint my family, didn't want to disappoint Margaret and Learning Ground.
Margaret Bell.
Yeah. They helped me so much when I was younger, so I didn't go that way.
The significant success of Learning Ground in its 10 years of operation is evident with the 500 students who've been through the programs and the 80% success rate of students re-engaging in their learning and going on to further education or into the workforce, and significant reduction in those students who may well have pursued a life of crime who are now contributing positively to society.
I've always believed that a non-violent behavioural change program focused on disadvantaged young people could be successful. I'm really pleased that Learning Ground is doing so well.
I've been bullied lots, getting called fanny pubes.
Sorry, what was that?
Fanny pubes.
What's that?
Kept getting called fanny pubes, because I'm redheaded and pubic hair and that, or fanny pubes and that, and kept getting teased about my size, getting called short and stuff like that.
So how did you respond to that? Because I hear you've got a bit of a temper. Yeah. Tell me about those situations.
Some days I'd be all good, and if they'd say it, I'd just laugh with them. And then some days if I'm angry and that, then they do it, I'll just like react and have a punch on and that, or fight or push and shove.
What did the rainbow serpent do?
Made all the rivers and that.
Exactly. And what else?
Yeah, Ada started skipping classes. I would always think about like the bad things that are going to happen in class.
Like what?
Like if I don't know what I'm doing in class, or if it's going to be hard in class.
Began to turn various shades.
Because I skipped so much class and I had exams coming up. And I don't know what I was doing, and yeah.
To display all the colours of the rainbow.
They're given tasks to complete. They throw them in the bottom of their bag, if that's where they throw them, or straight into the bin, because they're overwhelmed by the task at hand. So my role here is to take them one-on-one, to look at the tasks that the school has set them, and to break it down into manageable steps. There are a lot of gaps in their education. Even if they are in the class, their behaviour is not conducive to learning. They've got too much else happening in their little world that school, they're not engaged. So when they receive an assignment, half the time they don't have a clue what the content is to complete the assignment. They've missed that. They're getting more and more behind, and they're finding it impossible to catch up.
This community identified that their young people's inability to connect with schools, their schools not understanding their young people, the fact that there was a high probability that if these young people were just left to be on the streets due to suspensions or expulsions, but due to the lack of monitoring by parents, that they were on a slippery slope to crime, to drugs, and to various things. How can we change this? And the key thing that this community said is we need a place for them to be themselves, where they were also being allowed to grow in a non-judgmental way.
As part of Learning Ground's 10th anniversary, Margaret Bell engages highly qualified academics to produce a detailed and totally independent evaluation of Learning Ground.
What was striking was to hear from the young people themselves who said that what makes them want to come is what they're learning, and what they're learning is what they need to learn. Things about themselves, about understanding themselves. So, a quote from the young people, they teach us how to manage our anger. They teach us, about who we are and what we need to know about ourselves. So that, what we might call a social emotional learning curriculum, is kind of hugely important for kids to start to see what it is they've missed, often through traumatic backgrounds or whatever, to learn how to manage their own lives.
Talk to me about the suspensions that you've got over the years.
Some have been because I've had a fight and then I've been honest about it and that, and then 2 days some would be, and then others would be 11 days.
Suspensions?
Yes. The 11-day suspension that I got was because I hit a kid over the head with a chair because the other kid turned my computer off, and then I went to turn it back on and the other kid thought was done turning his off, and he went like that to me, and then I picked up a chair and hit him with it.
Did you hurt him with that?
Yes.
I was running around with scissors, telling the teachers off, hitting other people, getting into fights. There was so much I was getting up to. I look back now and I regret it.
So what were you doing with the scissors?
Chasing the girls around because they peed me off, called me names, so I went to stab them with them.
You were going to stab them? Did you stab them?
No.
So what happened when you were chasing them with your scissors?
I think one of the teachers must have called the cops or something, because that's who, came and
So what happened to you when the coppers came?
I got taken away.
How did you go about behavioural change in young people who are having difficulty at school?
The first aspect of understanding the behaviour that we were looking at, which was pretty aggressive, was not to react with aggression and not to react with punishment. What the kids are mostly accustomed to is being banished or being blamed or being accused. And this doesn't mean without reason, because their behaviour isn't pleasant in the beginning. But we realised that there was a reaction in that behaviour, a reaction to constantly being hit on the head one way or another, psychologically, emotionally, socially. Consequently, we looked for a way to actually work on the positive and to diminish the negative behaviour.
What did you think about it the first time you went, the first day you went?
It was alright. It was like I could got the feeling that I could go here and do it.
And was that new for you?
Yeah.
To feel that way?
Yeah.
Because you didn't feel that way at school?
Yeah.
We spent a considerable amount of time, and sometimes it's very difficult, catching them out at doing something right. So that gave us a basis on which to build the concept of self-esteem and belonging.
In many schools, when a student is being disrupted in the classroom, the very nature of calling it disrupted says that it's actually interrupting the learning. The learning has stopped at that moment that student's being disruptive. Interestingly though, what happens in Learning Ground is that disruption is actually an opportunity to learn.
Every time I walk into a class, the teacher would tell me to get out, how to get down to the principal's office.
So why would the teachers tell you to get out?
Because I was too naughty.
Like what? What sort of things did you do?
Like I would just see if I couldn't get an answer right, I would throw the table or throw the chair in the classroom because I wouldn't be able to get help if I needed help. And then I would just carry on. And before I could smash up their classroom anymore, they just kept telling me to get out every time I'd walk in the door. So I'd get into the class even before roll call started and they'd be like, sorry, Miriam, you have to go to the principal's office today. And then even when I had to renew my suspension, sometimes the school didn't want me to go back. And even then, when I wasn't in school, I still had Learning Ground. I was still allowed to attend that.
Mira was about 13 when I first met her, and she was one of the kids that is often left in charge of other things and become the parent in a family situation. There was a lot of burden on her, and therefore she couldn't engage in school and schoolwork.
The smoking today is serious and sacred because it's sending us forward on the journey that we're about to make.
Margaret Bell surprises everyone by announcing selected Learning Ground participants and mentors will make a one-off trip to Uluru to celebrate Learning Ground's 10th anniversary.
Will you please come and take a secret name?
Uluru, people make their way around, please.
Remember it well. Remember it well. Because you are taking that person with you in spirit to Uluru.
I was living with Mum at 10 and started vandalising stuff and thought it was cool to hang around with stupid people and that got into trouble and stuff like that to make me feel like I have a name for myself.
He'd lived in a country town where he'd been knocking off cars. He'd been sent to the city to reform, and he'd found it was just as easy to knock off cars there. So it was quite a difficult journey for Kane in the beginning.
Just didn't care, didn't give a crap.
Were you sort of angry? Or?
Yeah, I think it was more to do with Mum and Dad splitting up when I was a young age, and I just let loose and did whatever I wanted to do. And no one could
So
tell
you're
me.
upset about that?
Yeah, I was real upset about that. I still am upset to this day about it, but it's life. Life goes on.
When he was a young boy with us at Learning Ground, he was very conflicted about right and wrong.
They would tell me to do something, I'd tell them to get effed, and I'm not doing that, do it yourself. And they actually pulled me aside one afternoon when everyone was going home, and they gave me a little bit of a talking to and said, "You've got to be more respectful, and we're going to help you show you how to respect others and yourself and everybody around you."
And how did that make you feel? Were you?
It made me feel good. It made me feel like someone's actually going to help me, and it actually gave me the time to let me talk about my problems and stuff like that, and let me get it out, what's making me so angry inside and stuff like that. And it actually was the first time I ever told someone. Like, the school counsellor tried to talk to me and stuff like that, and I wouldn't talk. I'd be like, I don't need to speak to you, because I just didn't want to speak to anyone about it.
There were numerous times in the 6 months that we were there at Learning Ground where we observed these very young people experiencing an overwhelming emotion in that classroom, in that context at Learning Ground. And rather than that emotion being seen as a mistake, and this was crucial, the program at Learning, particularly the mentors, take that overwhelming emotion as an opportunity to actually learn about your emotions. What's happening right now? We heard the Learning Ground mentors saying, how can you approach this in a better way?
So what makes you angry, Chloe?
No, mostly, like in class.
Yeah.
Mostly the boys, they all pick on me, and the teacher doesn't do anything about it.
So how do they pick on you?
They call me names, especially, and throw things at me. No, I just ignore them, where before I used to feel like what they were saying is true. And then now it's like I don't really listen to anything they say, but some words that do hurt me. So then I just, have to go outside and breathe and stuff.
What, to just relax?
Yeah.
So
and just calm myself so I don't, get up and hit them or anything.
And can you tell me the sort of words that upset you?
Like when they call me a slut, that word. And they say things like, how many guys, and stuff like that, even though I haven't.
How many guys you've been with, you mean?
Yeah.
Is it satisfying? Obviously, you can't hold back all the time, but at the times that you can now?
Yeah.
Is that progress for you?
Yeah. A lot.
It brings about an awareness that their emotions don't just come from nowhere, that they're actually linked to people, they're linked to places, they're linked to space and time, and that if they bring those into their minds, that they can actually manage them. And it creates this sort of knowledge that if I can manage this big, huge thing that people have said is wrong with me, well, what else can I do now? I'm managing my emotions. And you can see how then that feeds back again into that self-efficacy. I can do this.
Go. All right. Oh my God, they done really good.
Bring it around. Weapon now, both of you.
So what happened on that day?
I actually had a fight, a punch on. Yeah, I shoved the teacher over out of my way to get to the student.
Do you remember the look on the teacher's face when you physically...
Shocked, very shocked, actually. A look of disappointment, I'd give it. It was a great look of disappointment. Because I wasn't known to be violent. I might have been cheeky and backchatted, but I was never known to be violent. But, yeah.
So what tipped you over that point?
Him, the person I was having a fight with.
How did he provoke you?
He actually hadn't been doing it for a day. He'd been doing it for a very long time. And I just got sick of it. So I think I had kind of a brain snap. I was kind of expecting it to happen, but I didn't know how soon.
What, you felt you could control it for some time?
Yeah, I was controlling it for some time.
So what sort of things were happening? What was he doing to you?
He was physical, writing letters, giving me threats.
What sort of threats?
Don't come to school or I jump on your head and all of that. Don't come to class today because if you do, I'm going to stab you. And those sort of things.
I'm going to ask Kaz to write it on the board, please, the results. Get ready to put into your book the thoughts that are expressed. Tell us one thing that you would wish for yourself for Christmas. Now, this is not a motorbike or new Xbox. It's something personal. I would like to be stronger. I would like to be happier. Helen, what would you like for Christmas?
I don't know.
Can you look at me? What would you like? What would you really like for you? See, tell me one thing. What do you think it might be?
More respect of my family.
More respect from my family. That would be a lovely gift. So these are gifts that are priceless gifts. We work with a number of wonderful volunteers so that the young people work with a ratio of 2 to 1. So 2 young people to 1 mentor, an adult who is very clearly educated in the process of understanding behavioural change. And they're there to support them through every minute of the day.
There's a constant process of community building through that. And also it's the implementation of their foundational idea, which is each one teach one.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's actually, as I understand it, it's been drawn from some Aboriginal elders who recommended that as a learning approach. And it recognises that we all have something to learn and we always have something to learn. And on that basis, there's no, assuming that one is superior to the other. There's, I'm here to learn with you. And I might be your mentor because I've come a few steps further and I've got something to offer, but you've also got something to offer me.
Steve, what would you like for Christmas?
To be with my kids.
To be with his kids, his 2 little kids. That's going to happen, I'm very sure, that there will be a moment for Steve. Comes here very generously every week to us. He would like to spend every day with his kids. At the moment, he's not able to see them. They're going to grow up with a very, very fine dad.
Steve is one of our biggest assets. You don't have many people, you can't meet many people that can share a life like Steve's that they've had themselves and say that they've come out on top of it all. The kids absolutely adore him because he's just so real with them. And like a lot of kids say, oh my goodness, you're a human. We can connect because our experiences are fresh. He'll tell you, I've been through this, I've been through that, I've been through that. I can relate to your story. I understand what you're going through. I went through something similar. And they really react to that, like, wow, well, what should I do, Steve? And then he'll say, well, I can't tell you what to do, this is all about you making your own decisions, your own choices.
If you're having a tough time in life, hearing from the 24-year-old social worker is quite a different experience to hearing from someone that relates to you, lives in the same suburb, has a similar family background, knows the same people, maybe went to the same school, actually connects with you at the level of a friend, but has actually gone through a kind of learning experience themselves that can help you with some of the challenges that you're facing.
Because every kid's got a different situation and you have to approach it separately depending on the person that you're talking to. So naturally, you surround yourself with people you know. So you don't got to go to change yourself to be able to fix that problem. It's going to be the same situation every time. But with these kids, you don't know what you're getting. So you've got to learn to adapt.
I had a run-in with the law a couple of years ago with my ex-boyfriend. Comes to my place, he comes in and he asks me if he can have a cigarette. And I'm like, he was 14 at the time, we're both 14. And I'm like, no, come in, I guess, if you want. So he came in, and my mum, being a bit loopy like she was, like we all were at the time.
Loopy?
Just crazy, like had a lot of anger behind us. We took our problems out on everything. And unfortunately, this one time we went really far and we kind of assaulted him really bad to the point he was unconscious. And
so why was that? Why did you do that?
Because he had stolen from us prior to my relationship. My mum was the one that had all this information, and it resurfaced when the incident happened, when it was brought to my attention, and she wanted vengeance pretty much. She wanted to get this boy for hurting me and stealing off her. And then
from assaulting you?
Yeah, and being rude to me and stuff. He actually bit me a few times in our relationship too. So, and me, I thought it was just mucking around, but I don't know, I was 14. I don't even know what I was thinking back then. But yeah, no, we really did something that we regretted and now stuffed up our family completely. I don't even talk to my mother anymore because of it. But yeah, we ended up assaulting this little boy and keeping him there for 4 hours in a really bad state. We then let him go, and he went to his parents and hospitals, police, etc. 3 days later, I got arrested. I got sent to Mt Druitt police station, the holding cells. I was in there for 2 days, when thankfully Debbie Higginson, my lifesaver.
This is from Learning Ground?
Yes, from Learning Ground. She was my best friend pretty much, like through Learning. Well, not best friend, but everyone.
She was a mentor?
Yeah, she's a mentor. And she actually put me up in her place for the weekend while I went and figured out where I could go and what I could do. And she helped me get some clothes because my house had just burnt down out of the repercussions of what my family and I did to this boy. They've actually come down and burnt our house down when we were in prison or in lockup. So we lost everything. That was the last thing I'd done wrong, and I'm very proud of that because it's really hard for me to control my anger, and Learning Ground has actually helped me do that somehow. I don't know how they did it, but they did it.
She took a gamble on getting to trust us, and that paid off for her to get her through the challenges that she ended up facing.
Come up as close as you can to this central area and be absolutely silent. Give the rock your name. I am. And you say your name. Now, close your eyes. Be absolutely silent, and you'll feel on your skin the touch of the ancestors. And ask for what you most need for your life. It might be respect, it might be responsibility, it might be love, it might be joy, it might be understanding, it might be to be free of pain, it might be anything that you deeply wish for your journey to the heart. Now please say the name of your buddy. Each one, think carefully about what you would like your buddy at Learning Ground to have. When we get back to Learning Ground next week, you're going to tell your buddy what you asked for them. It's huge.
It's amazing the way that it hits you.
It certainly does. Breathe.
We've got on the board the Darrick word for welcome, which Darrick kindly told us about last week.
So, what is it, please, in a loud voice?
So it's wonnery.
I didn't hear you. Try again.
Okay, so you need the Darrick word for all together, which is Alawa.
You seem to really enjoy your work.
Yeah.
Is that an
love it.
accurate assessment?
Oh, I love it, yeah.
What is it about the work?
Well, when I was a solicitor, nobody came to me and said, you know, this agreement that you've drafted for me, this has really changed my life. But the work that we do here, either with the parents in the family skills program or with the kids in the behavioural change program, you know, the kids won't necessarily articulate it like that. The parents might. They might say, this is really making a profound difference in my family. But the kids, it will just show up in their behaviour and in how they're talking to you about everyday stuff and when they're really making connections with you. Like one of the boys who just joined this term started outside the building and he keeps coming further and further in and he's now sitting at the table and...
Like he wouldn't come in?
No, he would just stay outside the building and gradually he's felt more and more comfortable and he's here and he's participating, he's joining in the programme. You know, that gives me such hope because I can see that he's got enormous potential and he's not commonly regarded like that. You know, in the rest of his world, I think a lot of people have given up on him. And, you know, if you can take somebody like that who's still got potential, although they look so broken on the outside, and you can breathe a little life into them and watch them blossom, that's an amazing contribution to be able to make. And that's far more rewarding than any of the slightly better paid jobs I've had.
How much is crime a problem in the Mt Druitt area?
Oh, I think it's a huge problem.
How close did you come to getting hooked up in that way?
Oh.
There must have been a turning point for you.
Oh, it was close. I think I realised with the moment when I faced the judge that I couldn't be doing that anymore.
A judge in court, was it?
Yes, because he was pretty scary. Even though it was just an ADO, it was still a scary fact because I was never there before, but still.
That's an apprehended violence order, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how did you get the ADO?
Because I broke the girl's cheekbone. She was just some girl at school.
And you didn't specifically pick her out for any reason?
No, she pushed me down the stairs.
Right.
Yeah, and then I turned around. I think because we was all rushing to class because the bell rang, and I don't think she did it on purpose, but I thought she did because I didn't see her.
So why was there so much anger? And why were you attacking people?
Because I just thought it was normal.
Learning about her own culture, her own Aboriginality, within the context of our learning at Learning Ground, I saw the first fragments of pride come forward. On one occasion, we went on an excursion and saw some Aboriginal paintings, and Muriel's face was an absolute study. I took the opportunity of saying to her at that moment, "This is your heritage. This is your family." And the tears flowed down her face, and she replied to me, "I always suspected that."
Palla, mungarji wiru, ngayo leni jawan nga, nyanga sahanya, Sarahnya, happy, Nadlinya, Palla.
Hiya.
Palla.
These lovely women here are going to be teaching you today, and I'll be helping them a little bit to explain their stories. Hiya. So we're thinking of all of these drawings as codes. They're like maps. They give us little clues about culture. So this one's really important. It means Nura, home. special place, sacred site.
What Learning Ground has managed to do incredibly well is to take what could be a disadvantage, that is the diversity that exists in Mt Druitt, and making it into an advantage.
That's it, connection.
How does your multicultural background become a strength for you? How is your accent a strength? How is your knowledge of different kinds of stories a strength? And then how can you share that with all of us so it becomes a strength for all of us? This is what we're looking in the 21st century learner. How can you see the world differently? How can you contribute to this world through your difference rather than through becoming part of the same?
This is our interpretation of what we see as 4 different cultures in the Mt Druitt area, and the most prominent meeting place where everybody crosses is a roundabout on Carlisle Avenue. 4 cultures meeting and passing one another.
It's an opportunity for that sharing from a place of equality and deep respect. And clearly that had to happen and did happen right from the beginning with Margaret and Winston Matthews coming together. And it's continued.
I did 2 watering holes, and I did emu and kangaroo tracks, and then I did 2 men with one each have a spear and a shield, so then they could hunt for the emu and provide for their family.
What did you think about your own growth? What did it tell you about yourself, a huge place like that?
Well, you guys have helped me through helping my behaviour. I'm not as angry as I was before. And I always look on the positive side of negative stuff, and even if it's not positive, I try and make it positive. So
has that happened for you in the last 12 months? And when you looked at Katajuta, how did that go together?
It felt like life, how walking up there, life's a challenge, and then you get through it. So.
Who else felt like that? It was hot, it was hard to walk the distance?
I did.
Okay, how did you feel when you got to the top, Tybrook?
Weak.
Weak?
Tired.
And were you proud of yourself?
Yes.
Why?
Because I didn't give up.
Good boy. Matt? How are you feeling about this place where we are?
Feel more connected.
What do you feel connected to, or who do you feel connected to?
The land.
The land.
Do you have Indigenous background?
Not that I know of.
But you felt connected? Was there one place that made you strongly connected to the land?
No, just everywhere was strongly connected.
What, you just felt that...
It felt like home, like safe.
I think I've changed a lot, so...
In what way, Tanika?
In that I want to learn.
And have your teachers noticed that?
Yeah, I've had lots of teachers always telling me that how great I am going at school. I even got a good letter home too as well, so yeah.
And how proud of you were you of that?
I was really proud of myself, yeah. I've had a fresh start. Now I've only got 2 friends and they're really positive and nice, and yeah.
These are new friends? And was that just something that happened, or were you looking for new friends?
I was looking for new friends.
Were you?
My mum was happy for me, that I come like a happier person.
At Uluru, there were some wonderful conversations that happened that was about future. And a few of them discussed with Margaret and myself, the possibility of, can I start a TAFE course? Can I go into a traineeship? What can I do instead of school? And it's great when you hear these kids want to discuss their future.
It tastes sour when I try it.
Oh. Yeah?
It tastes like an apple. It tastes like apple.
Yeah. Come over here. What one do? We are here.
I thought I would never go somewhere like that in my life. I thought blessed.
Blessed in what way?
Because they said that the ancestors were there.
Indigenous ancestors?
Yeah. And I thought, they could probably help me if I politely ask. And I just want to say thank you to Margaret for letting us go somewhere like that.
Okay, I want you all to say something positive.
Something positive.
Yeah.
Something positive.
Say something positive, not the word positive.
You said something. You said say something positive.
Okay, who's getting up at 4 in the morning again?
Me!
Thank you very much.
It took about 1.5 years maybe to really actually change. It wasn't bad. I wasn't throwing things. I was listening.
So why were you listening though?
Because I was getting help. I was getting help. I was getting the help I needed. What? He's coming off. He's coming off.
Around 2011, I met Muriel, who's a fantastic young woman. I met her because I was presenting her an award for being Junior Volunteer of the Year. It was the International Year of Volunteering, and we had a series of community volunteering awards around Australia. But Muriel really stood out because she was a young woman who'd come from very difficult circumstances, and she ended up being a volunteer mentor for other young people. And I think, the key to many of the programs that genuinely are successful with young people is that there isn't judgment, there's support.
All right, let's have a little think about that.
Every child matters. Every person matters. And every child can learn. Every child can be happy. And having someone who shows that faith in them is so important to that. Now, you hope it's their parents or their grandparents or their family that give that child a feeling that they are loved and unique and that the world is their oyster. Some kids don't have that, and that's where Learning Ground steps in for those kids.
This is my beautiful little daughter, Mia.
I learned how to let people help me and not be a prick my whole life. And Learning Ground helped me with that a lot, how to respect people and stuff like that. Like I deal with customers and stuff like that, and I think if I didn't go to Learning Ground, I'll still be the same way. I wouldn't be in the workplace that I am now.
And maybe he won't like me saying, but I'm so proud to say that at a fundraising event just recently that we had for Learning Ground, Kane, the mechanic, gave me a donation of $500. That is the biggest donation I've ever had. It came from his heart. He had made a journey to his heart. I can't think of it without crying. That kid was so damaged. And now he's so alive.
Once you believe you deserve certain things, you begin to fight for those things. Once you believe that those things are to do with your effort, not with who you are, not with where you came from, they are now in reach.
This is called the Leaf Dance. I hope you've enjoyed.
But here is the key thing that makes it very different from other places, is that Learning Ground doesn't tell these young people what the things that they deserve are, because they trust that if you teach them to believe in themselves, they will have high and mighty things that they believe that they deserve. They don't treat these young people as being silly, that they'll waste their life away. They give them the opportunity to think, if you could have anything, what would you actually have?
I want to write a book when I'm older. That's actually what I want to be, a writer or a counsellor. Two very different professions, but it still gets messages across.
The students from our school that have attended Learning Ground have come back with a positive sense of self. The students have come back with a greater set of skills in terms of their ability to develop positive relationships with their peers, with teachers, with their families, so that through that increased ability to develop positive relationships and their self-concept, they're able to have the confidence to go into class and focus on the intellectual development of themselves in their learning, which then leads on to a positive future and a success in education.
I've been so impressed over the years by the approach that Learning Ground takes, because it's deeply thoughtful. It's really drawn on a whole range of the science and psychology of how to help young people move from angry and disengaged to engaged and happier members of society. I think it's so important that people know about this fantastic program.
Improving skills in listening and response, and your willingness to befriend newcomers to Learning Ground. The more we discover about the values that have been taught to us by Australia's First Peoples, the connection, the depth of thought, the belief in family, the more we understand the depth of these ideals, the more we have come to the conclusion at Learning Ground that this is a program for every young Australian. In recognition of your increasing willingness to choose what is right, even though challenging, your ability to listen well, and your kindness to others. In recognition of very good journal work, continuous pleasant participation in your team, and developing leadership qualities. In recognition of your increasingly respectful behaviour, your willingness to participate in the team, and your openness to learning.
I just never thought I could make something of myself. I never thought I could be like what I am right now. I never thought I could make it here and make commitment to school every day.
Jared is one of the biggest challenges that's walked through Learning Ground. Described by one of his teachers as, "I'm sending you our biggest drop kick." We were ready for anything. He was a big boy, but drop kick he wasn't. And for overcoming major challenges. It is with the greatest pleasure that I now announce the winner of the Maori Tauhanga, the highest award that Learning Ground can offer. And that award this year goes to Jared Webb.
Ever since I went to Learning Ground from Year 7, I've wanted to give that award. And getting it today was actually an amazing thing. And what's funny, I've got the medal sitting in the bag right there. I've never felt that proud of myself. I've never felt that proud and accomplished. And it's something that that's something I always remember and hold on to.
As you know, Jared, I was there, and of course, David, our camera person, was there, and Martin. And when I saw the program, I thought, I'm going to look really closely. I was told you're going to win the big award, and going to look really closely at your face. And I thought that your reaction should have been bigger. And that you probably already knew. I could see you out the back going through all the programs to find your name next to the big award. Now, is that true or not?
Oh, I can't tell you that one.
No. And
You're about the Titanic in that one. You're sinking down with your questions now.
All right, I think we've had enough here.
Oh, no, I think we're just getting started.